What page is that?
Blessed Lord, in the way thou hast gone, leading straight to the land of love, giving cheer and repair to the sad and alone. Fill my way every day with love. Fill my way every day with love. As I walk with the heavenly God, let me go all the while with the song in the smile. Fill my way every day with love. Keep me close to the side of my Savior and God, let me never in darkness alone. In my family will death and my soul satisfied. Fill my way every day with love. Fill my way every day with love. As I walk with the heavenly dove, let me go all the while with the song and the smile. Fill my way every day with love. Soon the race will be o'er and I'll travel no more, but abide in my home above. Let me sing, blessed King, all the way to the shore. Fill my way every day with love. Fill my way every day with love. As I walk with the heavenly God, let me go all the while with the song and the smile. Fill my way every day with love. Amen. Let's do I Never Shall Forget the Day. Long years ago, when I was sin, I had no hope, no peace within, down on my knees, in agony. I prayed to Jesus and He gladly set me free. I never shall forget the day when all the burdens from my soul rolled away. It made me happy and free. I'll sing and shout for He's everything to me. Now I can feel Him by my side. My feet will stand equal to God. When trials come, He come with me. Through Him and Him I sin, I have the victory. I never shall forget the day when all the burdens from my soul rolled away. It made me happy and free. I'll sing and shout for He's everything to me. Oh, sinner, come to Jesus now. At His feet, just open mouth, confess to Him your every sin. He'll save and cleanse you, give you peace and joy within. I never shall forget the day when all the burdens from my soul rolled away. It made me happy and free. I'll sing His shout for He's everything to me. Amen. I pray we'll never forget that day. We might not remember the date, we should always remember the day. Let's sing I Feel Like Traveling On. My heavenly home is burning there. I feel like traveling on. No pain nor death into there. I feel like traveling on. Yes, I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is right there. I feel like traveling on. It's glittering towers, the sun outshine. I feel like traveling on. But heavenly mansion shall be mine. I feel like traveling on. Yes, I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is right there. I feel like traveling on. Let others seek upon me low. I feel like traveling on. Which waves devour, waves overflow. I feel like traveling on. Yes, I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. Heavenly home is right there. I feel like traveling on. The Lord has been so good to me. I feel like traveling on. Until that blessed I'll see. I feel like traveling on. Yes, I feel like traveling on. I feel like traveling on. My heavenly home is right there. I feel like traveling on. Amen. Good to see you. Thank you for coming tonight. I want to take prayer requests tonight. And Jim Wilson's sister passed away, so we want to certainly be remembering them in prayer and that need, the family there. Also, Brother Bill was telling us that our good friend Mark from over at Gilbert's residence was the first resident to catch the coronavirus there, and they told him that he wasn't going to make it, but he made it. He's back. Is he back now or headed back soon?
He's back now.
So we thank the Lord for that. We love Mark, appreciate him, and let's continue to pray for him and his family. Also, if it's the Lord's will, Tony, his last name right now, Chris and Tony Williams had his last chemo treatment today, so we're thankful for that, and let's continue to pray for that. Pray for our church, all the needs we have here, and I wonder if some of you have a spoken request you'd like to share tonight. Anybody?
My niece had me over there.
Somebody else? Yes.
There was a boy that went to school, his older brother, he was 20 years old.
I saw that. I was remember that. Miss Jackie, do you have a request?
Well, my neighbor across the street asked for prayer for his brother. They put him on hospice. It's his younger brother. And also, I'm leaving tomorrow with my oldest daughter to go to Kentucky for a funeral on Saturday. And my youngest daughter is coming down on Friday.
We should be praying for you for those things. Brother John?
This is my brother Wilson. I haven't seen him in a while. I miss him.
Talked to him yesterday a good while, and he's doing fairly well. But his family doesn't want him to get out and mix around yet, just because of his heart condition. So pretty good. So that's a good request. Someone else with a prayer request? he's home, and he's doing, last time I talked to him, which was 3 days ago, he's doing good. Doing real good. Anyone else? If not, then all those with an unspoken request, you can show up and raise your hand. And what, Brother Leon, would you ask God's blessings on our prayer request at the remainder of the service, please?
That we can come with you, Lord, without cares and our needs, Lord. And ask that you smile upon all this prayer request we have tonight, Lord. That you come and that give comfort and strength to the need for help. We ask that you go with us for the rest of the service, so that we can do and say we please you to you. We ask this prayers in your name.
Amen. Thank you, Lord. So I come up with another good reason that I type up my notes for my outline for my lessons or whatever. Tina come up to me and said, "What did you read, son?" I said, "You mean here at church?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Tina, that's a long time ago." I can't remember. And I was thinking it was in Luke chapter 8. It was. So Luke chapter 8, if you want to know what all specific scriptures you can.
Well, as you all told how to find it, I also didn't Romans.
Well, now we got these Sunday morning services captured on video, so you can always go back and look at it there as well. Anyone with the word of testimony you want to share before Ms. Jessica, you and Jason come on and sing? Anyone with the word of testimony about their God?
We're singing Victory in Jesus.
I heard an old story, how a Savior came from glory, how He gave His life on Calvary to save a wretch like me. I heard about His groaning, of His precious blood's atonement. Then I repented of my sins and won the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and He bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all is to Him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I heard about His healing, of His cleansing power revealing, how He made the lame to walk again, and caused the blind to see. And then I cried, "Dear Jesus, come and heal my broken spirit." And somehow Jesus came and brought to me the victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and He bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all my love is to Him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. I heard about a mansion He has built for me in glory. I heard about the streets of gold beyond the crystal sea, about the angels singing and the old redemption story. And some sweet day I'll sing up there the song of victory. Oh, victory in Jesus, my Savior forever. He sought me and He bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all my love is to Him.
my healing here below, or life forever if I go. Oh, praise the Lord, I'm a winner either way. None of us really knows about tomorrow. We must be prepared to go to heaven any day.
sing the man in the middle of the night? How about Give Me Jesus?
In the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, you can have all the world, but give me Jesus. When I'm alone, when I am alone, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, you can have all the world, but give me Jesus. When I do die, when I do die, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, give me Jesus, and have all this world, give me
Anyone else with a song or testimony tonight before we look at God's Word for a few minutes? Now we're going to go to Luke. Write this down, Tina. Luke chapter 19. And I'll ask if you don't mind to stand up as we read this, and we'll go to Luke chapter 19, reading verse 1. It says, And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho, and behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and saw him, and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste, come down, for today I must abide at thy house. And he made haste, and he came down, and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all murmured, saying, he was gone to be guest with the man that's a sinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have taken anything from any man by false accusation, I restore unto him fourfold. And Jesus said unto him, This day salvation is come to this house, for as much as he also is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. Brother John, would you ask God's blessing on the lesson tonight, the rest of the service, please?
Father in heaven, as we call on your name again, Lord, we thank you for another opportunity to be in your house. We thank you, Lord, for each one that's here tonight. We thank you for the songs we heard. We pray, God, that you want to reach down and bless our brothers as we read the message, Lord. Help us all to get something out of it, Lord. Thank you, in Jesus' name.
Thank you. So, we're probably got a little bit long of a message or lesson, so I'll probably just try and get through half of it tonight. Everybody can get a big deep sigh of relief right there. But I was thinking, it says about Zacchaeus when Jesus came down. Jesus said, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide in thy house. And he made haste and came down and received Jesus joyfully. This wasn't what I wanted to touch on, but I do want to touch on it for a minute. any of you that follow Facebook, and I probably spend too much time following stuff on there, you saw the despicable thing that said, Jesus, if he comes back, kill him again. It was a poster some of these wackos were carrying in, I think, Seattle, one of those cities that was ravaged. It actually said that Jesus, if he comes back, let's kill him again. And I thought, my, what a place our country's come to, that people actually feel that way. Actually feel that way. So, this is certainly a time, friends, that we need to be prayerful about our nation, about our communities, and about the worship we do and the work we do in God's house.
Amen.
And I wanted to just talk to you a little bit tonight about being a mission-minded Christian. And then specifically, what verse 10 there, Jesus said there to close this little episode up. He said, he spoke to his mission. He spoke to exactly in a nutshell why he is here, why he came to see, why he passed by that tree. There's no coincidence, see, no coincidence at all that Jesus passed by where Zacchaeus could see him. There's no coincidence that Jesus passed by the times and places he passed by in our lives so that we could see him. And we probably saw him, if you're like me, you may have saw him in your parents, you may have seen him in some of your siblings, you've seen him in your pastor, saw him at your church. It's no coincidence that he passed by. But Jesus says, the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. We know that means whosoever will. If you read all the other scriptures in the Bible, that doesn't leave anybody else. Whether a Jew or a Greek, or whether, it doesn't matter, the cultural background, the ethnic background, the marital status, anything that you could possibly divide a culture up by, it doesn't matter. Jesus came to seek and to save everybody. Everybody. And he loves the most vilest protester. He loves a person that had that sign just like he loved those that said, give us Barabbas. It's hard to understand. Me and you, we can't comprehend the magnitude of God's love. We can't. It would be hard for me to love that person. You know, I could bite my tongue and I could try and say something encouraging and to be a light to him. It would be hard for me to love the person that held that sign. It's not hard at all. God loved that person enough to die for them, just like he loved us enough to die for us. And so, if the mission of Christ is to seek and save those that are lost, and if his followers or his disciples are to be Christ-like, that needs to be our mission. Now, I know we can't save the lost. We can plant. Some of you plant, some of us water. God always gives the increase. We understand that. I've never saved a person. You'll never save a person. Oh, but we have the opportunity, friends, to seek them out and to give them Jesus, and to point them in the right direction, to get them on the right road, to give them something to think about. And so, I wanted to talk about four points of being a missionary-minded Christian, seeking and saving the lost. One is that we need to engage the lost, seek them out. One is we need to endear ourselves to the lost. I'll probably stop there tonight. Lord willing, next week we'll talk about we need to share with the lost or educate the lost. And the last one is we need to exhort the lost. We need to try and move them towards a decision or let them know a decision needs to be made. So Jesus, he had, can you just get the picture? Zacchaeus, the crowd was pressing him, and Zacchaeus couldn't see Jesus. And he must have heard, someone must have been doing some telling, someone to help word get around. He heard about the miracles. He may have seen the miracles that had happened in people's lives. For all we know, blind Bartimaeus may have stopped by one day. He may have seen what Jesus did in his life, and he had to see this Jesus for himself. Somebody was doing some engaging of the lost, seeking them out. Someone has shared something along the way with Zacchaeus. And someone was sharing a story and a message about what it was like to be a Christian, or what it was like to be forgiven, what it was like to be changed and be born again. Somebody was sharing that, and that's what we need to be about doing, friends, is seeking out the lost or engaging them. Let's turn over to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Chapter 9, I want to read a couple verses to you there. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. It talks about Paul's efforts that he went to reach out to the lost. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, I'll start reading in verse 15. It says, for though I be free from all men, Paul was not a spiritual debtor to anybody other than Jesus. Though I be free to all men, yet have I made myself servants unto all, that I might gain the more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without the law, as without the law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without the law. To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I have made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. Amen. And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might partake thereof with you. See, Paul was saying he was willing to do whatever it took, as long as it was godly, to help others understand what God had done for him. If there was one that was weak, that was spiritually weak, he was willing to do whatever it took to help that one that was spiritually weak see their need for the Lord. If there was one that was raised up in the law, he was willing to talk to him about the tenets of the law, so that the law might point them to Christ and the need for Christ. And if there was one that didn't live by the law, he was willing to go back and show them how the law fit into God's plan and the plan of salvation. He was willing to do whatever it took. And friends, I'll tell you, this is something that's significant, it's important, and it'll make you effective in your witness for the Lord. Because in our walks, when you get a chance to encounter people that are lost in your families or at your workplace or at your school, wherever it might be, not everyone looks like us. Not everyone was raised the same way that we were raised. Not everyone has the same background that we have. Not everyone understands things the same way that we understand things. So as much as we can try and understand and relate to where they're coming from and what their background is. You know, when I got asked to be pastor of this church, I got asked 2 or 3 times before I finally felt God tugging me in this direction. I was raised a Free Will Baptist. I've always been raised a Free Will Baptist. Never knew nothing but a Free Will Baptist. And the doctrines between Southern Baptists and Free Will Baptists are pretty similar, except for a particular thing. Once in grace, always in grace. So I never even gave it a second thought that I would be here. Never. And I told Leon, I told David, I will help you. All you need help, but you should probably try and find someone with the same Missionary Baptist or Southern Baptist background. Until God started speaking to me. After 2 years and 2 Easters of doing Easter services and a few weeks before or after Easter, God started giving me a real burden for this church and these people. So I didn't see any pastors on the horizon in 2 years of nothing had come. I thought, well, 2.5. 2.5. I know they can do a lot better than me, but there's probably not a lot of people out there. I started feeling a burden for them. And I started to say, God, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to not let this be an issue, the difference in doctrine from the Free Will Baptist to the Southern Baptist. You're just not going to let, I don't know how I could ever be ordained as a Southern Baptist with my beliefs as a Free Will Baptist. And to make a long story short, every hurdle was overcome. I had a meeting with the church out in the fellowship hall and said, I want to explain my background, who I am, and where I come from, and what I believe in. Because I don't want anyone to say, you snuck this in on us. You know, you brought someone in with possibly different doctrine than we had. And that went pretty well. There's some good hard questions, but it went pretty well. And then the church seemed to be receptive. And then we met with the Presbytery Board. And the Presbytery Board that they formed, and they went to examine me, and I knew it would come down to that question. And I prayed about it, and I'd asked a lot about it, and it came down to that question, and we had a good discussion. And then they asked me to excuse myself for a while they met and talked about it. And I'm thinking, well, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes is not going too good. Lord, maybe you got someone else in mind. 30 minutes, I believe it's 45 minutes. They asked me to come back out, and they said I was fine. That they would ordain me, but they would encourage me not to preach about doctrine. And you know what? I said, I'll just preach. God's want me to be here. This is not my doing, and I'll preach whatever He gives me. And my goal is to see souls saved, and not to shove doctrine down anybody's throat. It's a lot less about doctrine, friends, than it is about salvation. And the way I overcome that hurdle, I said that the way I look at it, the Southern Baptists believe if you're saved, you're always saved. The person that says from a Free Will Baptist background, you backslid, they would say you were never saved. And Free Will Baptists would say to a person that from a Southern Baptist that said they were never saved, the Free Will Baptist would say you backslid. And I said, you know what, we should forget about our differences and talk about our similarities. Our similarities are, in either case, the person better pray and get right. Whether you want to call them backslid or whether you want to call them never be saved, the reality is they need to pray and get right. And
Amen. Bless you, Lord.
and I never dreamed I would be here at this church. Never dreamed I'd be a preacher or a pastor, let alone here, not in the Free Baptist denomination. And I'm glad to be here. I'm pleased to be here. I feel in my heart this is where God wanted me to be. And I just share that to share a little bit of what Paul said. If it meant that I got a chance to proclaim the gospel, if it meant I got a chance to share with somebody some message in some service and see them get saved, then who cares about what doctrine came from? Who cares about what religion or came from, denomination? That means nothing, Brother John. Religion will do nothing for you. Religion will mess you up. Denomination will mess you up. Salvation will get you to heaven. A personal relationship with Jesus will get you to heaven. And Paul understood that. And I thought that was so powerful for him to say, whatever that it took, within reason and within the confines of God's Word, whatever that it took, if I could share the gospel, somebody could understand, somebody could repent, fall on their knees and receive Jesus, it'd be worth whatever I had to do to get there, Brother John, within the parameters of the gospel. And so, because someone's got a different background, because someone may be this, because someone may be that, you can share with them what God has done for you. You can go to them and seek them out. You can let them know what a mighty, mighty God that you serve. And there's lots of ways you can approach people, short of just pound them over the head with the gospel right off the bat. That's usually not the most effective way to be a witness to somebody. Brother Rick Locker used to say this all the time. He said, if you fall in love with God, and then the people you're sharing with can find some way to just a little bit fall in love with you, they're going to fall in love with God. And that's kind of what I believe Paul was talking about there. So we need to be willing to approach people, no matter our differences in backgrounds or whatever, approach them because we're all God's people. He says here that for as much as Zacchaeus was also a son of Abraham, we're all descendants of Adam and Eve. We're all the children of God. And so we need to be willing to do that. And then Matthew 18, I want to share with you a couple verses there. Matthew 18 and 12. Matthew 18:12 says, how think ye if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and goeth unto the mountains, and seeketh that one which is gone astray? And if so be that he find it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more of that sheep than the 99 which were not astray. Even so, it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven, that one of these little ones should perish. So there's also, we need to be willing to go with people that are lost. Now, I remember one time I was watching a show with my dad as a little boy, and it was called, I think it's Phil Donahue, one of those shows, and the episode was Strippers for Christ. I was about 9 years old. I didn't know much, but I knew that strippers and Christ in the same sentence didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That wasn't right. We don't go to places that are sinful and that ruin our testimony or our testimony. But we go to the places where we can access people that might go there. And the lost person, how many uninvited lost people do we see come into our church every Sunday? Not too many. Not too many. Very few. Sometimes we do, and we thank God for that. So if we want to go out and to engage the lost and seek them out, we have to be active somewhere in our community, at school, at work, in your neighborhood, on walks, when you're grocery shopping, talking to a person, at the laundromat, wherever you might be. We need not to be afraid to go to those that are lost. Go to those that are lost. And pray. You say, Brother Joe, I'm not very good at cold calls. You don't have to be. I promise you, if you will pray and ask God, Lord, help someone cross my path this week that I can engage for the cause of Christ. Miss Jackie talked about the lady she met at the laundromat. That's quite a story. See her after church and she can tell you about that. But you ask God, help someone to cross your path that you can share with them. And it might just be, are you having a good day? God bless you. I hope you have a good day. And next time you see him, maybe you give him a word about church or something. Go ahead, Miss Jackie.
At first I thought I could help her. And then I just realized, man, I could not change her mind.
Right. No.
I couldn't.
Our role is just to go and share what we can. It's God's, if anyone's going to change, it's because God speaks to their heart and convicts their heart, and they respond to that. And you're not responsible for how they respond. None of us are responsible for how people respond. But our responsibility is to share with them, engage with them, and let them feel and see and experience the love of God. Not to be afraid to go, go into the hellos of the world. That's not what I'm saying. But you're not going to run into many lost people in God's church, in God's house. We need more. We need more. But you're not going to run into many. Miss Beth?
I faced a thing like that when I first started going down to Florida, and God had called me to sing. He said, you can meet down here at the senior center and you can sing. And I thought, this would be great. I love to sing. And I can do pull my daughter pretty good. But anyway, when I got there, the man who was to go ahead of me, he sung Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down. And as I'm going up, I'm talking to the Lord, and I said, God, am I supposed to be here? I don't feel right just now. And I got up there and I said, God loves every single one of you. And I sung On the Wings of a Dove, God Sends His Love. And the next 3 songs was God's songs. So I said, yes, Lord, that's the answer I want.
And so you see Jesus here said he wasn't afraid to leave the 99 sons. This is a wonderful place that I love coming to church. It's so good to get back in God's house with all you and see you and worship together and see people raising their hands or singing along or joining the fellowship. That's great. But friends, if this is the only place we ever get together and try to engage people, we're missing great opportunities. And aren't you glad that Jesus didn't stop at any point in his ministry, stop engaging people, stop speaking to our hearts, stop walking by trees and had people like Zacchaeus in them? Aren't you glad he didn't stop doing it? And whenever you see somebody engaging somebody, we got to not be like they were in verse 7 here. It says about Jesus that talked to Zacchaeus, and Zacchaeus made haste and came down and received him joyfully. And Jesus said, today I must abide at your house. What did the people that are watching do? Verse 7 says, and when they saw him, they all murmured and saying, he was gone to be a guest with a man that's a sinner. He was gone to be a guest with a man that was a sinner. But I think that's a good testimony. Now, if Jesus had went into a hellhole with him, that wouldn't have necessarily been the best testimony. But you and I, friends, that's okay. If someone says, that person doesn't go to church, that person doesn't believe in God. Miss Marcy's having lunch with him. Good for Miss Marcy. God bless you, Miss Marcy. Do that. And let him see your love, the love of God in you. Let him see the light of God in you. And let's engage them for the cause of Christ. And I'm so glad that Jesus wasn't held back by what others thought. What if they never got past the children of Israel and the Gentiles that never got grafted in? I'm glad, I'm thankful it got past them, Brother John.
Amen.
I'm thankful that their misfortune was our fortune. I'm thankful to open the door for us, for me, and for you. And I pray that God would help us to be about engaging the lost. Now, the next thing is I want to talk about is how that, in addition to going to it, was seeking them out, being willing to be what you need to be to communicate and be able to speak to a person, and being able to leave the comfort of the flock at times, then you have to endear yourself to them. That gets to the part that Brother Rick Lockton was talking about, get them to fall in love with you. And how do you do that? How do you do that? What's the old saying? You get more flies with, somebody help me. More flies with honey than vinegar. Thank you, Mrs. Marshall. You know that's true? A little kindness in our society goes a long ways. A little disrespect. If you just hold the door open for some people at a store, that blows them away. If you tell a checkout person at the grocery store, have a good day, when you can tell they're short on patience and probably just run up, you're probably the 120th person that they just run up and they're a little bit tired of reading food. Well, that goes a long way. We need to endear ourselves to those that are lost. Amen. Treat them with kindness, genuine kindness. And you know, people can see if you just put on a false front. You can probably see that, can't you? People can see through that. If you're just treating someone nice, but it's not really you being nice, that kind of comes off. But if you can genuinely treat someone with a little bit of joy, a little bit of kindness, the golden rule, treat others the way you'd like to be treated yourself, the way you wish they'd treat you, that goes a long way. And we show them, let's see, Colossians 3:12. Colossians 3:12 says this. Put on, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness, meekness, and long-suffering. And that speaks. Have you ever been around somebody you didn't really even know them, hadn't met them before, but after you're around them for a little while, you developed an opinion that, you know what, I bet that person's a Christian. I bet they're a Christian. How'd you know that? What are your clues? You never go to church with them. You probably never ask them if they're a Christian. So how do you know that? By the way they interacted with you, right? By the way they treat you, by the kindness, by the language they use or don't use, by the anger they show or don't show, by the things they say or don't say. Today, a genuine Christian, if you have a conversation with somebody for 10 or 15 minutes, the things that Christians are going to say are going to be so much different, in most cases, not always, but can be so much different than what other people will say, that it speaks. It speaks. So we can show compassion. In Matthew 25, I want to flip with you for a minute. I know you all know these scriptures. And we'll read in verse 31. It says, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as shepherd divideth the sheep from his goats. He shall set the sheep on his right." I started too soon. Verse 34 is where I'll start. "Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hunger, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall a righteous answer and say, Lord, when saw we thee an hunger, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? But when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall verily answer and say unto them, Inasmuch as you have done it unto the least my brethren, you have done it unto me." So one of the ways that you endear yourself to the lost is by tending to their needs as best you can. You can't pay everybody's bill, you can't buy everybody's restaurant tab, you can't always do those things at the expense of your own family and your own needs. But if you see someone that needs a coat, bring it to the church. This church has been so giving, and we have far beyond what we've went out of our way to not bring attention to those who need help. The way that we were recorded in our meeting minutes and so forth, that the church has gone way, way out and extended themselves to help people. That's good. That's how you meet people's needs. You can help them. And there's also been times we've had to say no, we couldn't get help, or we couldn't trust what the person's going to do with the help we gave them. But that's the way that you reach out and you endear yourselves to people. You provide the help that you can when you can. How does that show up most often? I think it shows up most often. Excuse me, I got a pilot on or something. I got a bunch of them there, one of them not supposed to be there. During funerals and funeral dinners. It really, whenever someone passes away, I always try, if the church can help you, if I can help you in any way, let me know. If you happen to be able, we haven't been able to have a funeral dinners for these families that lost loved ones the last little while. But boy, I'll tell you what, when Mom passed away, and seeing the love and compassion and empathy that was showed up there and showed at the funeral home, think that doesn't help your heart heal or help you start to recover some from the bad loss you suffered? It helps. It helps a lot. And if it helps with a church person that's more used to that, think about the impact it has on a lost person that's not used to somebody caring very much about them, not used to somebody really, willing to put out much effort to help them. It makes a difference. And so however we're able to help, and God will show you how you can help. It might just be on praying for. It might just be, here's lunch. I made me a sandwich at work. Marcy tells me about this all the time. All the different kids that come to school without food. How she'll take an extra package of lunch meat, an extra loaf of bread, and make my kids sandwiches. That's just a little thing, but whatever you can do will help somebody. It'll help somebody. And in the process, if you're a child of God, it will allow His light and His love to shine forth in your life. So we need to show compassion. We need to help them. And helping them, and Mark chapter 10, and we'll come to a close in just a minute. Mark chapter 10. Let's read in verse 42 of Mark chapter 10. It says, But Jesus called them to him and saith unto them, You know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones. But so shall it not be among you. Whosoever shall be great among you shall be your minister. And whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be servant of all. And that notion of servant, Jesus was the best servant leader we ever heard of in the world. And he was King of Kings and Lord of Lords, the Son of God, incarnate in the flesh. Left the glories of heaven, all the royalty that it had, and came down here to be wrapped in the flesh and to be servants. And think about when they had the foot washing. I remember Peter said, I can't do that. And Jesus told him, said, you're none of mine if I can't wash your feet. And then what Peter tell him? And wash me from head to toe, basically, right? We can't let pride get in the way. We need to have a humble spirit and a loving spirit and a kind spirit and a spirit to serve. And it's a pleasure to serve God, and at the same time we're able to serve others through funeral dinners, through the Compassion Sunday, the children we've adopted, through the different ministries the churches have had. I think about last year how we had the Kids Day. I was so hoping, I'd already talked to the outfit about having the petting zoo back again and doing some more things, and looking at Bible lessons, and things just not going to work out this summer. We'll do it next summer, but to serve that way. Some of you were in roles as a play. I'll never forget Marcia Coleman's house is here up here for the play that's Bob Scott did. And Leon being Noah. Leon, you were such a good Noah. And the songs we sung and the fun that we had. You know, that's serving. That's serving. Because you could have been out on a golf course. We could have been out on a lake somewhere. We could have been out at a shooting range or doing whatever your hobby was. But that's a chance to serve. And to the extent that some of those children's families came and saw that love and felt that love, that's being a servant. And friends, if we ever want to be a leader for Christ, we don't have to be a servant for Christ first. I believe that with all my heart. Jesus was the best servant leader you'd ever see, you'd ever encounter, ever experience. And Jesus' mission was to seek and to save the lost. And if we as his disciples, as his followers, we need to be likewise minded as a Christian, engaging the lost for his kingdom, and endearing the lost to ourselves, helping them to find reasons to fall in love with us because they see the love of God in us, endearing them to Christ. And next week, Lord willing, we'll look at the last two sections of educating the lost and exhorting the lost. But that's what I got to share with you tonight. Let's all stand and we'll get ready to be dismissed in prayer. Lord willing, we'll be back Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 12 noon. And so be praying for those services. Invite somebody to come if you get a chance. And thank you for your faithfulness in being here tonight. Thank you for your faithfulness in continuing to give. Brother Lynn sends me a little report every once in a while when he makes deposits, and we're doing good. He said, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Lynn. He said, your people are doing good. They're tithing real good. And I said, our people, man. He said, no, Dave and I decided to give all that to you a long time ago. But I appreciate your faithfulness in coming to church and supporting the ministry of the church here, and you are a blessing. We love you. Okay, any other announcements? Did I miss anything, Miss Marcy? Okay. If not, all hearts and minds are clear. Let's bow our heads and Brother Silas, would you dismiss us in prayer, please?
Lord, thank you for another day in your house. But thank you, dear first God. Bless those that couldn't come tonight. Thank you for the ones that did come. Thank you for the singers, Brother Joe. Thank you for all the people we had in this church today.
Yes.
Thank you for the church with us to help us out. We give you the praise and glory, God, for everything you did for us. And so we meet next time. Amen.
Amen. Be careful on your way out there. We got to touch the concrete, there'll be probably a bunker, so we'll have that step and stuff fixed up.
Take care. See everybody later.
Have a good week, guys.
You too.